Walk into a large piano dealership and start counting the names on the fallboards. Steinway, Boston, Essex, Knabe, Promberger, Seiler, Weber, Kohler and Campbell, Baldwin. 20, 30 different brands, each with its own logo, its own price tag, and its own little story the salesperson is ready to tell. And here is the part the industry would prefer stay quiet. A huge number of those names are not companies at all. They are labels. Many of them roll out of the exact same factories, off the exact same assembly lines, built by the exact same workers, and then get a different name painted on the front depending on what a dealer wants to sell that year. There is even an industry term for it: a stencil piano. A piano where the name on the front is, quite literally, just a stencil. Today, I am exposing 7 famous-sounding piano names that are secretly built by someone else entirely. And once you understand how this game works, you will never look at a piano nameplate the same way again. If you would rather know who actually built your instrument than fall for a name painted on the wood, this is the channel for you. Subscribe, because we expose exactly what you are really paying for every single week. Let me start with the practice itself, because it explains everything that follows. A stencil piano goes back over a century. In the old days, a department store or a local dealer could go to a piano factory and place a bulk order, and the factory would paint whatever name the dealer requested onto the fallboard. The piano was identical to a dozen others coming off that same line. Only the name changed. Sears sold pianos this way. Catalog companies sold pianos this way. The buyer thought they were getting a distinct brand. They were getting a generic instrument with a custom label. That practice never died. It just got more sophisticated. And it is worth understanding why this happens, because once the motive is clear, the whole industry snaps into focus. A piano brand name is a trademark, and trademarks can be bought. When a famous old piano company goes out of business, the factory closes and the workers go home. But the name does not disappear. The name is an asset. It gets sold. A modern manufacturer can purchase the rights to a respected old American or European name, attach it to instruments built in an entirely different country, and instantly borrow 100 years of reputation that has nothing to do with the piano in front of you. For the manufacturer, it is brilliant business. You are not paying for craftsmanship that survived. You are paying for a name that survived. So with that in mind, here are the names doing it today. Number 1. Boston. Built by Kawai. This is the one that stuns people, because the name attached to it is the most prestigious in the entire industry. Steinway & Sons does not only sell Steinway pianos, they also sell a mid-priced line called Boston, designed by Steinway's engineers and marketed under the Steinway umbrella. And Boston pianos are not built by Steinway. They are built by Kawai in Japan. Think about what that means. Kawai is one of Steinway's direct competitors. A buyer can walk into a showroom, decide a real Steinway is out of reach, and step down to a Boston believing they are getting the closest thing to Steinway craftsmanship at a lower price. What they are actually buying is a Kawai-built instrument with Steinway design input and a Boston badge. The piano is genuinely good. Kawai builds excellent instruments, but the customer who chose Boston specifically to avoid a competitor brand has, without knowing it, bought from that exact competitor. Number 2. Essex. Built by Pearl River. Steinway does this twice. Below Boston sits an even more affordable Steinway-designed line called Essex. And Essex pianos are manufactured by Pearl River, the largest piano maker in the world, in China. Same arrangement. Steinway engineers design the instrument to their specifications. A Chinese factory builds it. A dealer sells it under a name that borrows Steinway's prestige. So a single family of pianos, all carrying the Steinway connection, comes from 3 completely different places. The actual Steinway is built in New York and Hamburg. The Boston is built by Kawai in Japan. The Essex is built by Pearl River in China. 3 names, 3 countries, 3 factories, 1 logo, selling all of it. None of this is a scam. The pianos are well made. But it is a masterclass in how a famous name gets stretched across instruments the famous company never physically touched. Number 3. Knabe, Promberger, Sealer, and Kohler, and Campbell. All Samick. Here is where the rabbit hole gets deep. Walk through a showroom, and you might see William Knabe and Company, a storied American name dating back to 1837. Next to it, a Promberger, which sounds distinctly European and refined. Next to that, a Johannes Seiler, a name anchoring back to Prussian Germany. And nearby, Kohler and Campbell, another classic American label. 4 different brands, 4 different histories printed in the brochures, 4 different price points, and they are all owned and built by the same company. Samick, a massive South Korean manufacturer that also produces instruments at its mega factory in Indonesia. Samick acquired these dormant American and European heritage names and now builds pianos under all of them. The Austrian-sounding Promberger name traces to a real Steinway engineer, but the brand itself is a Samick product. So a buyer comparison shopping between a Knabe and a Kohler and Campbell, thinking they are weighing 2 different makers against each other, is comparing 2 pianos from the same parent company, very possibly built in the same facility. Number 4. Weber and Albert Weber, all young Chang. Samick has a twin, and it is also Korean. Young Chang is the other giant of Korean piano manufacturing, and it plays the exact same game. Young Chang builds pianos under the Weber and Albert Weber names, classic-sounding labels that suggest old-world heritage. It does not stop at acoustic pianos either. Young Chang also owns Kurzweil, the well-known digital piano and keyboard brand, and Young Chang itself is owned by a Korean conglomerate connected to Hyundai. So when a shopper looks at a Weber upright and a Kurzweil digital piano sitting in the same store and assumes they are unrelated products from unrelated companies, they are looking at 2 divisions of the same corporation. The names are designed to feel independent. The ownership is anything but. Number 5. Baldwin, the American legend now built overseas. Baldwin is one of the most important names in American piano history. Founded in 1862, it was for decades the great domestic rival to Steinway, the piano of American homes, schools, and concert halls. That heritage is real. But the Baldwin of today is a different animal. The company went through bankruptcy and is now owned by Gibson, the guitar company. A large portion of Baldwin production was moved overseas, primarily to China. So the Baldwin name still carries the weight of a great American story. The instruments wearing that name today, in many cases, are built in Chinese factories under Gibson's ownership. Compare that to Mason and Hamlin, another historic American brand, which remains one of the very few genuinely still built in the United States. 2 legendary American names, 2 completely different modern realities. One survives as a true domestic builder. The other survives mostly as a respected name on instruments made far from where the legend began. Number 6. The house brands and the dealer specials. This is the modern version of the old Sears catalog trick, and it is alive and well. Large piano retailers and chains frequently sell house brands, exclusive names that exist only in their stores. A name no one has ever heard of, with an impressive-sounding European or American flavor that you cannot find anywhere else. The reason you cannot find it anywhere else is that it is not a real manufacturer. It is a label the retailer commissioned, applied to instruments built by one of the big original equipment manufacturers, often the same Chinese or Indonesian plants building dozens of other names. The genius of the house brand, from the seller's point of view, is that it cannot be price shopped. If a piano carries a Yamaha or a Kawai badge, a buyer can look up the exact model online and compare prices across 10 dealers in an afternoon. A house brand has no competition and no reference price. The dealer sets the number, tells a story about the name, and the buyer has no way to check whether they are paying a fair price or double. When a name exists in exactly one store, that is not exclusivity. That is a pricing strategy. Watch how the sales pitch is built around that. The story will almost always lean on words that sound like heritage without actually claiming it. Designed in Germany, European-inspired, crafted in the tradition of the old masters. Listen closely, and you will notice that none of those phrases say where the piano was built or by whom. Designed in Germany is not built in Germany. European-inspired means it was inspired by Europe and made somewhere else. These phrases are written by marketing departments precisely because they are technically true, while creating an impression that is completely false. The moment a salesperson reaches for heritage language instead of a straight answer about the factory, the name on that fallboard is doing exactly the job it was created to do. Number 7. Your digital piano. And the lesson underneath all of this. The same thing happens in the digital world, just faster and on a larger scale. As covered on this channel before, enormous original equipment manufacturers in China build digital pianos that get sold under a long list of Western brand names. The keybed, the sound chip, and the internal architecture can be identical across instruments wearing several different logos at several different prices. Whether the piano is acoustic or digital, the machine is the same. Only the marketing changes. So here is the lesson that ties all 7 of these together, and it is the single most valuable thing you can take from this video. The name on the fallboard is not a reliable guide to who built the instrument, where it was built, or what it is worth. A prestigious name can sit on a piano made by a competitor. 4 different names can come from one Korean factory. An American legend can be built in China. A name unique to one store can be a generic instrument with a custom label and no reference price. The name tells you a story. It does not tell you the truth. So what should you actually do with this information? Stop shopping by the name and start shopping by the facts. 3 questions cut through every stencil, every house brand, and every borrowed legend. First, who actually manufactures this specific instrument, and where? A reputable dealer will answer that directly. Evasion is an answer in itself. Second, can I find this exact model and brand sold by other dealers? If the answer is no, you are looking at a house brand with no reference price, and you should treat the asking number with deep skepticism. Third, what is actually inside it? For an acoustic, that means the materials, the scale design, and the build. For a digital, that means the action, the sensors, and the sound engine. Those facts do not change based on the label, and they are the only things that determine whether the instrument is worth the money. None of this means a stencil piano or a rebadged instrument is automatically bad. The Boston is a fine piano. Samick and young Chang build perfectly good instruments. The point is not fear. The point is power. Once you understand that the industry runs on names that are designed to feel like more than they are, you stop paying the premium that those names are engineered to extract. You walk in knowing that Knabe and Kohler and Campbell might be cousins, that Boston is a Kawai, that the exclusive house brand is a generic in disguise. So the next time a salesperson leans on the name, the history, and the story printed in the glossy brochure, smile, nod, and ask the only question that actually matters. Who really built this? And what is inside it? Because in the piano world, the name on the front is the one thing they want you to look at, and the one thing that tells you the least.